Good morning, everybody. My name is Cody Norton. I'm the co-founder of Ignite the Spark. Welcome to All Stars 26. This has been a week full so far already. We had Power Connect yesterday where we revealed the Energy Tech Landscape Map 26. Sean's going to come up. He'll talk a lot more about Ignite and everything there. We had events going on. We have this today. We still have more events. We have events happening in the next couple days. You could check out our Luma. But All Stars, this is something that's been happening for many years now. Ignite the Spark was founded 7 years ago, and All Stars is a trend that we continue on. As you could see, I'll get out of the way of the screen just so you could see, we have plenty things happening today. We have topics ranging across the board. We're gonna have panels, keynotes, and you're gonna be here all day. And we'll take a little bit break. We'll have some lunch. There's something happening at lunch as well that I'll be able to tell you a little bit later, so you could get your food and be able to go. And then, as we go through the rest of the day, we also go into our all-star pitch sessions. We have 2 different tracks that you'll be able to see and prizes that are going to be happening. So, really, without further ado, so we can get the day going, I want to bring up our fearless leader that I always say, Sean Dana, CEO of Ignite the Spark.
Okay, good morning everyone. Welcome to Israeli Energetic All-Stars 2026. Look around this room. This is quite exciting to see a full room those days. And the Israeli Energetic ecosystem in 2026 looks stronger than ever. The last 3 years was probably the most challenging years as an Israel and the ecosystem is facing in. Yet, this is the last 3 years, we decided to move from one-day startup competition into Energy Tech Week, without even doubts that this is the time to move and doing the change. And we are grateful for do so. This week, we have more than 15 events, satellite events that we work together with partners, including site visit, professional session, drinks, networking, even workouts and running together for those that were really brave earlier this week. You can find at the closed roundtables the amazing discussion, the conversation, and that is amazing to see this, how it's evolved from year to year. We have more than 30 partners that support each one of those, the main event today and also the other week. We really appreciate any of your support. Thank you for your trust, your active collaboration, and never stop reaching out with us to new heights with the ecosystem. I want to say special thanks for our strategic partners that make this happen and make it the whole way. We can never do it without you. You are held a solid ground when nothing else was. And I want to use this opportunity also to congratulate our new partners from SMA, joining us to the team, together with Israel Electric Company, Doral, Leon, Herzog, Startup Nation Central, and the Ministry of Energy support us in the Love Initiative. But the most important above all, it's this amazing team that you see here, being able to push and pull up this crazy operation, week, events, it couldn't be done without them. I want to use this opportunity and mention specifically each one of them, and at least most of them, because there are more than 40 people that won here. So thank you again, Aya, Adir, Eshel, Cody, Kadan, Leah, Roni, Aran, Bar, Leah, Tzvi, and of course, Lichi, that our producer, that made each one of these sessions accurate and simple as it is. Yeah. I want to say that this year specifically, it wasn't an easy year. Clarity and certainty haven't described our country, I feel like, and we all feel like. Pushing off this week and this event to a more quieter, maybe more convenient moment would be probably the easy call, but we don't take easy call. We believe that resilience, agility, and adaptability, those are define our ecosystem. And that is basically exactly the spirit we see exactly in our map with 180 startups that we launched yesterday. This is show us that we are, as an ecosystem, are pushing innovation to more urgent needs. We can see how the AI is shaping power demand as the speed grids were never built for that. Electrification is training every system we have. And energy security probably felt more urgent than ever and stopped being a policy papers to actually a national and global priority. The climate clock, of course, is still ticking, and we don't have enough, we can't even forget that. The world needs answers, and the Israel energy tech ecosystem needs it. Later today, you will be able to see 10 of the amazing startups of the Israeli energy tech all-stars. 10 out of them, the others of them you can find on this, the audience as well. And those are the part of these programs that we have this year with dozen application, free workshops, to selection committee together with partners. And we choose those that started on. 2 of them will be able to go to 2 global opportunities. One of them would be the Energy Alliance as part of a New York Climate Week, and the second one will be Energy Tech Summit, and we'll get to it very soon. So without further ado, I would like to thank you, each one of you, to push and support each one of these efforts. And I would like to continue the session, and Cody, I'll let you take it from here.
Thank you, Sean. So today, we're on Herzog Fox Niemann. And before I bring up Mark Phillips, who's partner at Herzog Fox Niemann, let's go over kind of what this place looks like. This is the main hall that we're going to be in today. We also have the first and second floor. So if you want to be able to go out and network, you'll be able to go down to the first floor. This should be a quiet room outside, and that's because, as always, we have a camera in the back, and that's for our online attendees. We have people all over the world that are partaking in this event, and people find Israeli energy tech interesting, and that's why you're all here this morning as well. So without further ado, Mark Phillips, partner at Herzog Fox Niemann.
Good morning, everyone. So once again, I'd like to welcome you all to Herzog Fox Niemann. It's been my pleasure for the last few years to help introduce the Energy Tech All-Stars. So why are we here today at Herzog? First of all, we pride ourselves on being involved in the most significant deals, Israel abroad, and advising the world's leading companies. Sure, big deals and big names. But sometimes when I talk to the Ignite team, they kind of look at me, why are you here again? You know, if that's what you're interested in, big deals, big names. And what I've explained to them and what we genuinely believe is that we take pride in working with some of the founders who've got nothing but an idea, and the investors who are looking to fund them, and startups looking to grow. Any of them could be the next game changer. And that's why we work with Ignite the Spark, and that's why we're proud to be partners with them. This year's participants are some of the most impressive I've seen. And unfortunately, I missed all of the selection committee meetings because I was on reserve duty, and I didn't manage to fit that in between my shifts. But I did go through the startups that made it through to the final, and they really are impressive. They span energy efficiency, storage, hydrogen, nuclear, management, grids, and really a whole range of things, and you know, we'd love to hear more about them later and see how we can help them as well. Now, the backdrop for all this work has really been, never felt more urgent and more exciting. Every day, I'm sure you as well hear about more developments in the AI field. In our partners WhatsApp group, every day we get messages saying AI can do this and AI can do that, and it's going to revolutionize this and change that, and really how Harvey and his friends are coming to take our jobs. What we hear less about is how AI will be powered. Data centers, as you know, are huge consumers of electricity, and I did a quick check online and found some statistics. Some people are looking at 165% growth in data center power usage in the next few years. A simple query on one of the AIs, ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, whatever, uses around 0.3 watt hours. And obviously, if you start asking for more complex things like edit a video, do things like that, it uses far, far more. And in Israel, we're not immune to that. We're seeing huge growth in data centers, and that's going to need more energy, but not just more energy, but also improvements in the grid and technology and how we use them. Those of you who don't know, in my spare time, I'm a lawyer who does energy work, and we're actually working on multiple large-scale conventional IPPs right now, hopefully adding about 3 giga in the next few years. But that's not going to be enough. And energy's not enough as well. You need water for data centers because that's how you cool them. Latest statistics I found was that in the US, in 2023, so that's old, they used about 17 billion gallons of water to cool, and that's going to obviously increase. The EU predicts that in 2027, they could be consuming, data centers could be consuming about 5 billion cubic meters of water. Now, those of you who have been here for a while will know that we used to have some water issues, and desalination really helped solve those. Everyone remembers the Israel Mitiyabeshet, the adverts on TV. You'll remember those. We don't see those anymore because we have desalination. But obviously, what's the problem with desalination? That it uses a lot of energy. So you have this cycle where you need more water, so you need more desalination, and then you use more energy, and then it goes on and on. And those are the challenges that I think Israeli entrepreneurs are really, really well placed to deal with. I think that people in this room can really make a contribution to solving those challenges as we go forward. But it's not only positive developments that have really driven this innovation. Cody and Sean sort of referred to it. We've seen the war in Iran have forced other countries around the world to realize what we already knew, that energy security is actually a real issue. It's not just something that you put on paper. We all know that Israel's energy tech, tech culture in general and energy tech in particular, wasn't driven by the fact that we have lots and lots of resources. It was driven by the fact that we didn't. We have not enough land, we had not enough water, we didn't have enough resources to develop them. But we still managed to build one of the most dynamic ecosystems in the world, and as we saw from our friends at Startup Nation Central, we have hundreds of active companies in the sector who are raising millions and millions of dollars in capital. So the challenges, I think, are clear. And the question is really how we can meet them. Now, those of you who were here last year and the years before will recall, I hope, that I like to leave you with a question to think about before I step down and hand over the mic to more interesting people. So I want you to spend a couple of minutes on a thought experiment. I want to imagine that you wake up tomorrow and it's 2036. 10 years have passed. Think about what has happened in those 10 years. What has changed in the energy sector? What were the key decisions that led to those outcomes? And what could we all have done better? Have a think about that. I'd love to hear your answers. And now I will hand over. Thank you all for coming. It's a pleasure to see you all. Good luck and enjoy the day.
Thank you, Mark. And thank you for being a great partner. Speaking of partners, we have the Ministry of Energy and Infrastructure coming up next. And when I saw Brian this morning, he goes, another year and things are new. Mark, you kind of just touched on that. There's a lot of new, there's a lot of developments. So I'd love to bring up Brian Rosen, Chief Scientist, Ministry of Energy and Infrastructure, to tell us what's new.
Good morning, everybody. So wonderful to see everybody here together. I noticed also that since last year's event, I'm not the only one with a different colored name tag. And I think that speaks a lot to the diversity and the interconnectedness of our community. Today, I want to speak a bit about my vision for what the Chief Scientist Unit at the Ministry of Energy and Infrastructures can do since I took my position about 6 months ago. Before that, I was a professor of material science and engineering and chemical engineering at Tel Aviv University. And the move from the academic sector towards the public sector comes with its challenges, and it's those challenges that I'd like to address to you today. But I'd like to start my talk with a bit of a story, a bit of an anecdote. Because in 2021, somebody who I think everybody in this room knows reached out to me, Gideon Friedman, the chief scientist at the time, my predecessor. He reached out to me on WhatsApp and he asked me the following question: Brian, do you know anything about methane pyrolysis? which is a process of taking natural gas and converting it into hydrogen without making any carbon dioxide. I mentioned him. I've heard of it. I've worked for about 10 years on a similar reaction involving natural gas, but not exactly the same thing. Do you think you could come up with something clever for catalytic methane pyrolysis? I think it could be of national interest. Sure, I'll think about it. And after that conversation, I put together a proposal to the ministry. I won. I got 3 years worth of funding that got extended to 4. I started up a company that now has a pilot program in REL for doing that exact reaction. And last year, I was on this exact stage in the All-Stars competition pitching that company. And that resonates with me a lot, the importance of what we try to do in my unit. We try to find the strategic technologies that will be of interest to Israel, not necessarily today, but in the future, and find the people that are in the periphery that can come in and help towards that challenge. So I appreciate the fact that Gideon found me and recruited me towards this reaction, and I gave a wonderful, well-prepared presentation, and for those of you that were here last year, you'll remember, I famously lost. But I lost to a company named Naki, who basically takes all the parts of the chicken that you don't eat and turns it into sustainable jet fuel. So I lost to a well-founded company, and in a beautiful symmetry, I visited Naki about a month and a half ago before their first reaction system got shipped off for actual use, because obviously this is funded by the Ministry of Energy, and now I have a vested interest in Naki's success, and I couldn't be happier for them, and I couldn't be happier to be involved in the energy community from this new angle. For those of you that have been following me on different social media platforms or the ministry, you'll see that we've made noise in a few different areas over the last couple of months. And one of the areas we've been trying to make a little bit of noise in is geothermal energy. We released a report only a few days ago about the strategy for geothermal energy in Israel and what needs to be done and what impact it could have over the next 5, 10, 15 years in the energy community. And as a result of the post that came out in my unit, I got a response from somebody who's not in geothermal energy. And he said, Brian, I'm so happy that you put this out. I do work, he does work on simulating drill bits for different applications. Didn't even know geothermal energy existed. Oh, but now I have a new application to work on. And that's the important part here, because there are going to be aspects of our technology, of our strategy, that we don't necessarily have the community ready to go. We're a small country, and we have limited resources, and those limited resources include manpower. So how do we recruit people who are knowledgeable and smart to come in? It's by having a coherent strategy. And this isn't exclusive, but the strategy is based on core areas, people that have core expertise in the hydrogen economy, solar energy, energy storage, geothermal waste to energy. But if you just look at these core areas, you're limiting yourself to a relatively small community in an already small country. So what my vision is to expand the energy community, to bring people into the energy community who themselves do not necessarily identify as being part of the energy community. Somebody who does 3D simulations for drill bits does not necessarily feel they're part of the energy community. Somebody that works in heat transfer, somebody that works in power electronics might not necessarily feel like that they're part of our community, and it's our job to bring them in and to grow our community and to enhance innovation. I'm sure most of the people in this room don't need this slide, but I think it's a great way to show the way that we look at our strategy for the future. Because our energy needs are going to be split into sources that can provide for our base load and sources that can provide for our peak load. So if you were to look at the different megamot, the different categories that we're looking at for energy, and I'll put those on the y-axis in a moment, against the technology readiness level on the x-axis, you'll get, again, this is not exclusive, so if your particular brand isn't there, don't be offended. I didn't forget about you. But it gets split up generally into these different brands. And because we're a small country with limited resources and we live in a different geopolitical environment, we cannot take the strategy of the United States or the strategy of Europe and do copy-paste. It just doesn't work. We live in a different reality, as Mark told us before. So the question is, how do we come up with a plan for 2035, for 2050 that is custom tailored to Israel, that takes into account our strengths and our weaknesses? And that's what we try to do with the ministry, to identify these areas of strategic importance. The strategic importance goes towards the baseload and for technologies like hydrogen and fuel cells and solar and wind, etc., that in principle could help the baseload, but they're dependent on storage, and obviously we're quite strong in that as well in Israel. So these are topics in 2026 that we view as being highly strategic and important, but it's not exclusive. There are other topics that we feel are important as well, and these are mentioned in blue, and you see where on the TRL level that my unit tries to help. We look to support things that are sort of between, let's say, 3 and 9. Because 1 and 2, there are other methods for basic research. 10 and 11, it's sort of beyond our financial ability to help with the gap. So we look mostly in the middle. And again, there are lots of cross-cutting fields. For example, all the fields in yellow have overlap with the solar energy industry. All the things in blue have overlap with water. Mark mentioned water energy nexus in his comments, and I'll share with you that the energy that we use for water desalination and pumping comes to 8% of our total energy consumption. So we're looking to make that more efficient as well. So if you're interested in the things from year to year that the ministry puts on high priority, I invite you to open up our research policy document that we publish every year. Section 1 goes through all the topics, and Section 2 gives the topics that we're interested in for any particular year. We published it a few weeks ago. I invite everybody to go to the website and take a look at it. One of the things that's overarching in all of these topics is obviously AI. But AI goes in 2 directions. You have AI for energy and energy for AI, and we're interested in both. AI for energy, we're looking at using AI in order to help us for resource discovery, critical minerals. We're helping AI in order to discover new materials that you don't need to do one by one in the laboratory. For batteries, fuel cells, new catalysts, or materials that can survive extreme temperatures, pressures, or environments. We also consider energy for AI. It's not just the added energy needed, but rather a lot of these systems need to be disconnected strategically from the grid. So you have data centers that can work off of 10 megawatts, but you also have data centers that need closer to 300 megawatts. And the question becomes, what are going to be the technologies that can supply that power? We have our strategic plan for 2035 and for 2050, how to map out where we want to go. And it's generally broken down into 3 different categories. The first category, the yellow track, is renewables. The second track, the blue category, is hydrogen. And the third track is the red category, and it's nuclear. And even though the exact technologies aren't exactly in focus yet for what there will be in 2050, we do calculations to say, okay, this is the amount of energy we expect to need. These are the technologies that are going to be in the mix. How much lithium do we need? How much sodium do we need? How much copper do we need? And the amounts are astronomical. Small country, little resources. Critical minerals presents a large problem to our sector. So again, this is one of the communities that we're going to be hoping to build because there are a lot of people in the periphery. Work that we do together with partners at the Innovation Authority and the Ministry of Science tell us that there's somewhere between 70 and 100 companies and researchers that are in this field trying to work on this. But we need to recruit them and bring them in. Our job at the Chief Scientist Unit is twofold. On the one hand, we want to support the communities that already have their feet on the ground and have already started running and have been running well for the last 15 years. This includes the energy storage community, the battery community, the hydrogen community. And it is a priority of mine to make sure that the community that I personally as a researcher feel a part of continue to get funded, continue to get support from the ministry as they move up the TRL ladder. But the second goal that I touched on already is to, and Sean, please don't sue me for copyright infringement, we want to ignite the spark and find new fields that don't necessarily have those basis for community, don't have the manpower, don't have the volume of companies, because we identify them as being strategic, and we want to recruit these people to our cause to join the energy community. But this is an example for energy storage, a center that we established a few years ago between between Technion and Bar Ilan, an energy storage center where companies in these fields can come and have access to industrial level testing equipment. We're also working together with the Ministry of, the Innovation Authority, and building a site for testing pilots in the hydrogen field. And this is going to be near the Eshel site. And we're quite excited about this. The first companies are already getting set up. And also back in the end of December of last year, there was a governmental decision to expand and build a hydrogen infrastructure in the eastern Negev. So we're working on that as well quite intensely. So how can we at the ministry help the people in this room? Well, there's a few different answers to that question. The first answer to that question, if you're in academia or if you work with people in academia, we have academic grants for novel ideas that fall in line with the priorities that I showed you a few minutes ago. Those grants are to the amount of about 750,000 shekels over 2 or 3 years. 750 is over 3 years. And the support is 100%. You don't have to bring any matching. And it's a call that we release on a yearly basis competitively. For those of you that are basing your startups or thinking about basing your startups off of academic research, being in touch with academic researchers that already have support by us is a great strategy. But there's other ways that we help as well. We also have a yearly grant for the industrial sector, which is split up into 2, startups and demonstration plants. The startups are meant to help the valley of death at TRL4, which is the technological valley of death, where proof of concept tends to be the major challenge. But we also try to help at the industrial valley of death, closer to TRL7, where you're ready to put your first pilot and you need to bring your first heavy investors, or your second heavy investors, in order to bridge the gap for the second industrial valley of death. And I'd like to conclude by saying that it's really a privilege to be speaking to you today in this forum. I know so many of you. A lot of you were my students at the university. A lot of you were my coworkers, collaborators. Some of you were even my competitors. And I'm really honored in the position that I have today to continue to be able to work with you, those of you in academia, investors, people that have vision for what the energy landscape in Israel is going to look like in the next 5, 10, 15 years. And really an honor for me to talk with you and to continue to work with you. And please, anybody that would like to reach out to me or the ministry, please feel free to reach out to me at this email address. I apologize, I will not be able to stay for the social aspects or the next sessions because I need to run down south immediately after this talk. Thank you very much for your attention, and good luck to everybody.
Thank you so much. So, we talk about one side that can support entrepreneurs and scientists. I think on this next one, we don't need any introduction on the work that you do in any way, because every entrepreneur knows exactly what you do. So I want to introduce Dror Bin, CEO of the Israel Innovation Authority.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Great to be here. Where is my... Here it is. Okay, Ignite the Spark Energy Tech Week. In the next 10 minutes, I will do a zoom out and speak about the Israeli high-tech sector as a whole in the last few years, and then zoom in back into the energy tech sector. I'm sure everyone knows the Israel Innovation Authority. Our mission in life is to sustain, to improve the competitiveness of the Israeli tech sector. As you know, Israel tech sector is something like 1/5 of Israeli GDP, which is the highest number in the world by far. The US is about 10%, EU about 5%. So I always tell my team that Israel is writing the guidebook of what does it mean to be an innovation-centric economy. We invest every year about $700 million in Israeli tech ventures, primarily deep tech, and energy tech is obviously one of them, and primarily early stages, and also in the technological infrastructure of the country, like for instance, the infrastructure that Brian mentioned in Tasha for hydrogen pilots. We also deal with the policy, overall policy of the government vis-a-vis the high-tech sector. Now let's talk about the Israeli high-tech in the last few years. As you know, Israel is one of the world-leading innovation hubs, number one in the world in numbers of startups and unicorns per capita. 6.7% of GDP is reinvested in research and development, highest number in the world. OECD average is less than 3. By the way, all of these numbers are completely new, just published this Sunday about 2025. As I said, almost 1/5 of Israeli GDP comes from the high-tech sector, and 60% of Israeli export is based on technology. Having said that, 3 years ago, all of that was radically challenged by the events of October 7th. And there was a big question mark whether Israeli tech will be able to deliver or not. And I will not go because of the lack of time into all the challenges that the ecosystem faced back then. But I'm very happy to say, and these are also new, this is also new data that was published just this week, that the results of 2025 are not less than amazing. Israel kept its 4th place globally in terms of fundraising. This is not per capita, it's absolute numbers. We compare ourselves to innovation hubs, which are either small countries like Israel or large metropolitan areas. So you can see that the first 3 hubs are all American. So you can also say that Israel is number 2 in the world in terms of countries in fundraising for early stage startups. But also when it comes to growth companies and larger companies, look upon this number, more than $80 billion of exits, M&As in 2025. This is the highest number ever. The previous record was in 2017. It was around $20 million, so 4 times the previous record. 2025, still a year of war with Iran and so on. But maybe the most amazing result of 2025 was the fact that after a few years of decline in the number of new startups that were established in the state of Israel, in 2024 and 2025, we saw a change in trend, and more startups are being formed in the state, in the country. You can ask yourself, how come in the middle of the war people have time to create new ventures? Well, my answer is that probably since people were drawn out of their comfort zone because of army duty or volunteering activities, and they saw new needs and they met new people. And this is why we see now more ventures. And also AI that was mentioned before is lowering the bars to create new companies. I've mentioned deep tech, so it was very important for us also to survey the deep tech ecosystem in Israel. Out of about 8,000 tech companies in Israel, 1,500 are deep tech, considered deep tech. They have raised in the last few years about 1/3 of all the fundraising in Israel. And also here, Israel is second only to the US in terms of fundraising into the deep tech companies. Now, talking about deep tech, we should now zoom in back into energy tech, which is definitely one of the deep tech sectors. Israeli energy tech at the forefront of global energy disruption. And what a disruption it is. Look at that. 5 different disruptive forces are reshaping the energy world. I'm sure I don't need to explain to this audience what does it mean, so I will not go into the details. I can just say that each one of them alone is enough to create disruption and enough to create a huge demand for technological innovation. The combination of all the 5 is really mind-boggling. The amount of technological innovation that is needed by the world is crazy, and this is exactly where the Israeli ecosystem comes into play and brings forward amazing breakthroughs in all aspects of energy generation and distribution and so on and so forth. And not I am saying this, even the World Economic Forum is saying that. You can see that they have compared countries from all around the world about where they stand in different aspects of energy. Well, on regulation, finance, education, and infrastructure, Israel is not in the top 5, but when it comes to innovation, we are number 3 in the world after China and the US. The ecosystem today, according to our records, consists of something like 250 different tech companies, energy tech companies, around 15 global multinationals that have an R&D center in Israel, 34 companies just created in 24-25. Those companies, all of those companies raised about $2 billion in the last 5 years, which is much higher than the 5 years before. Early stage are 55%, and they have raised $800 million. So very wide ecosystem with a lot of early stage and promising companies. But obviously, we will have to see and wait and see how they succeed. We continue in the Innovation Authority to support all deep tech sectors. Obviously, we like a lot to support great energy tech companies. Our main platform for investment is the Startups Fund, Keren Hayznek, which is supporting every phase of the early stage of a company, from ideation through pre-seed, seed, and round A. You can see our funding percentage. So anyone in this audience who is not familiar with this fund and is in the early stages of his or her venture should know this fund. But not, and this is, by the way, the list of companies that we invested in the last few years in. But this is not enough. Those companies need not just the direct investment, but they need also the surrounding environment. And this is why we invest also in other platforms, like for instance, venture studios, our incubators, that are actually creating new ventures that otherwise would not come to the world, and also in doing pilots in Israel and in the pilot sites themselves. And all of that is geared towards this vision of Israel serves as a global hub for energy tech innovation, advancing a sustainable scaling of worldwide energy systems to meet growing demand while reducing environmental impact. I'm sure that Israel will bring such solutions to the world, and I wish you all success and have a great event. Thank you very much.